You know that feeling, right? When you're learning a new language and a grammar rule just doesn't click with how you normally speak? Well, one of the biggest head scratchers for English speakers learning Spanish, and honestly the other way around too, is the present continuous tense. So let's crack this thing open and see why trying to translate it word for word is a one-way ticket to sounding, well, just plain weird. So let's just dive right in with a real-world question that gets to the absolute heart of the matter. This is one of those things that separates just knowing the words from actually sounding natural. And boom, there it is. This simple question from a learner on Reddit is exactly what thousands of students are thinking. And the short answer? Nope, not even close. But the reason why they don't, well, that's where it gets fascinating. It shows a totally different way of looking at time and action. To really get this, first we have to understand our own home turf. You see, in English, the present continuous isn't just one simple tool. It's more like a Swiss Army knife. It has a bunch of different jobs it can do. Okay, so the basic formula is super simple, right? You take a form of the verb to be, like am, is, or are, and you stick an ing on the end of another verb. The big idea is that we're talking about something that's still going on, something that's not finished yet. But you're about to see just how flexible that idea really is. First up, we've got job number one. This is the one everybody knows. It's for an action that's happening literally right this second. Like right now, you are using the internet to watch this. Easy enough, right? This is pretty much the one job that both languages agree on. But here's where English starts to stretch the rules. We also use it for things happening around now, but maybe not at this exact instant. So if you say, I'm reading a great book, it doesn't mean the book is in your hands. It just means it's the one you're working through this week or this month. It's a temporary thing. And this one, oh man, this one messes with so many people's heads. In English, we use the present continuous all the time to talk about the future. But not just any future. We use it for things that are already planned and set. I'm flying to Paris on Tuesday means my ticket is booked, it's a done deal. And finally, my personal favorite, the complaint tense. When you add a word like constantly or always, it's not just about a repeated action, it's about how you feel about it. He's always leaving his socks on the floor, has this layer of annoyance that he always leaves his socks on the floor, just doesn't quite have. Okay, so you've got the 4 English jobs in your head. Now, let's flip the whole thing on its head and see how Spanish deals with these same ideas. This is where you can really get tangled up if you try to translate directly. And this, right here, is the absolute key to the whole puzzle. In Spanish, the simple present is the default setting. It's the king. For so many situations where an English speaker's brain automatically goes to ing, a Spanish speaker's brain just uses the simple, straightforward present tense. This table is awesome because it shows you the gut instinct of a native speaker. So you see your friend doing something ridiculous. In English, your first thought is, what are you doing? But in Spanish, ¿qué haces? Is totally natural. And check out the future plan. English says, I am leaving tomorrow, but Spanish just uses the simple present, me marcho mañana. See? The only time they really line up perfectly is for that ongoing process, like learning a language. Now, this gets into the vibe of the language. Using the continuous in Spanish, ¿qué estás haciendo?, isn't wrong, but it changes the flavor. It's like you're putting a giant spotlight on the action, emphasizing that it's happening right now. And that extra intensity, as one person pointed out, can feel a bit more aggressive, like your mom catching you doing something you shouldn't be. All right, let's talk about another massive roadblock that trips up learners in pretty much any language. A special category of verbs that just refuse to play by the continuous rules. They're called stative verbs, and the name says it all, really. They describe a state, not an action. Think about verbs like know, believe, love, own. These aren't things you are actively doing. They're conditions, they're states of being. So a huge rule of thumb here, you almost never, ever put these guys in the continuous tense. It just sounds wrong. You don't say, I am understanding you. You just say, I understand. Getting this wrong is a dead giveaway you're not a native speaker. But come on, you knew it wasn't going to be that easy, right? English grammar loves a good plot twist. Some verbs can actually be both. They can live a double life as either stative or dynamic. But when they switch sides, their meaning completely changes. And have is the poster child for this. When have means you own something, it's a state. I have a car. Simple. But when it's part of an action, like an experience, it becomes dynamic. I am having a party. I am having a good time. It's the same word doing two totally different jobs.
Okay, want to get into some next level stuff? Let's look at a really cool, kind of sophisticated trick with the continuous tense that can add a whole new layer to what you're saying.
Think of yourself as a language detective here. You're not stating a fact, you're making a logical deduction. You do this by grabbing a modal verb, one of those words like must, might, or could, and pairing it with the present continuous to guess what's probably happening right now. And it's so simple when you see it in action. You hear that racket coming from next door. You know your neighbor's son has a rock band. So what do you conclude? They must be practicing. You're not 100% sure, but it's a really strong guess based on the evidence. If you were less sure, you could say they might be practicing. Okay, wow, that was a lot to take in. So after wading through all those rules and weird exceptions, what's the bottom line? How do we use all this to actually sound more like a native speaker? So here it is, your cheat sheet to sounding way more natural. First, remember the English continuous tense is a multi-tool. It does a bunch of jobs. Second, when you're speaking Spanish, make the simple present your best friend. Only pull out the continuous when you really want to add that right now emphasis. Third, always keep an eye out for those stative verbs like know and love. And finally, the biggest goal of all is to stop translating in your head and start thinking in the language. And that really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? Getting these little details right, knowing when to use one tense over another, not because the textbook says so, but because it just feels right and carries the perfect tone. That is the magic step. That's how you cross the bridge from just knowing grammar to truly speaking a language.